Hi, this is Scott with the City of Santa Ana, and I just wanted to welcome residents Jay, Ben, Bobby, Chris, Dwan, and Tom to our meeting to talk about the traffic study associated with the Westview project. It's 6:35 right now, so we'll start our meeting in 2 minutes. We want to be respectful of your time and accomplish as much as we can tonight. Um, and so we'll be kicking our meeting off in approximately 2 minutes. Thank you. Hi, too. I just wanted to suggest that you unmute your mic and so we can be ready to get started.
Yes,
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much.
you're welcome. So after you finish, and I would translate, or only that when someone need it?
Yes, we'll inquire first to see if it's
Okay.
necessary, if someone needs
Yes.
it. Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to suggest that we start our meeting tonight. My name is Scott Kuttner. I work for the City of Santa Ana in the Office of Neighborhoods. And as part of this meeting, we're offering Vietnamese interpreting. And so I'd like to have our interpreter make a brief announcement at this point too.
Bây giờ là chúng ta bắt đầu cái cuộc họp về cái dự án mà về nhà cửa. Tôi tên là Scott Kuttner. Tôi sẽ hướng dẫn cái cuộc họp. Thì bây giờ những người Việt của mình có ai cần cái thông dịch viên, cái thông dịch ra tiếng Việt không ạ? Tôi là Thu Vũ, thông dịch viên. Yes. Nếu quý vị nào cần thông dịch thì quý vị vui lòng cứ nói lên thì tôi sẽ dịch lại cho ông Kuttner nghe ạ.
Two, I thought that I heard someone say yes. Is that correct? Or?
I'm not sure, I don't hear anything. Quý vị có biết dùng cái chat không? Cái chữ chat là chữ CHAT đó. Quý vị nhấn vào đó rồi quý vị đánh vô là quý vị viết vào tiếng Việt là cần thì cho thấy, tại vì tôi không có nghe ai nói là cần hay không. Mà ông Kuttner nói là có nghe người nào nói là có cần. Dạ thưa, có ai cần để thông dịch ra tiếng Việt không ạ? Nếu có được thì quý vị làm ơn nói lớn lên. Tại vì qua cái máy điện toán computer nhiều khi cũng khó nghe đó ạ. I don't hear anything.
Okay, thank you very much. We'd like to ask you to just stand by, I think.
Yes.
To the extent that we have new participants who join the meeting and perhaps. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Once again, thank you for joining us tonight. This is our meeting to talk about the traffic study associated with the Westview housing project. We are staff from the City of Santa Ana who are assisting to facilitate these discussions. We have representatives from Santa Ana's Public Works Agency participating tonight who are very knowledgeable about the traffic study. We also have our case planner associated with the project on board. And so with that, we just really want to emphasize that the purpose of this meeting is to be able to answer your questions and to respond to your concerns. And so, Alyssa, can you switch to the next slide? And so there are a couple of ways to participate and ask questions on this meeting platform. And so you can type in your question to the chat. We can unmute your microphone and you can ask the question in your own words. And so there are many ways. We want to encourage you to please, don't hold back, ask your questions as part of this meeting so that we're able to.
Họp nghe thôi mà không có gì không. Thua rồi chị nghe thôi.
Yeah, let me ask them. I think that's a Vietnamese one.
Okay.
Dạ, quý vị, tôi vừa mới nghe có quý vị nào nói tiếng Việt thì quý vị có cần nghe thông dịch không ạ? Nếu mà quý vị cần nói đó, quý vị bấm vô cái chỗ mà nó giống như cái hình ở cái phía dưới bên trái của mình á, nó có cái hình giống như cái microphone á, quý vị bấm vô cho đến khi mà quý vị thấy trên màn hình của quý vị không có thấy cái màu đỏ của cái nó nữa, tức là quý vị có thể nói cho chúng tôi nghe được. Nhưng mà trên cái màn hình của quý vị mà quý vị thấy nó có cái microphone nó màu đỏ gạch chéo á, thì là quý vị nói chúng tôi không nghe được. Dạ, tôi muốn hỏi là ông hay bà Đoàn Nguyễn có cần nghe thông dịch không ạ?
Chu, this is Scott, and it looks like Tom dropped off the call, actually. So Tom is no longer on as an attendee. To the extent that Tom rejoins us, we can perhaps try again.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, so these are the ways to participate. Your questions are very, very important to us. And with that, Alyssa, let's let Zed share his screen. And I'd like to introduce the Executive Director of Santa Ana's Public Works Agency, Nabil Saba. And he and his staff will be participating in this discussion regarding the traffic study.
Sure. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Margarita. Good evening, everyone. My name is Nabil Saba. I am the Executive Director of Public Works Agency for the City of Santa Ana. Tonight, we have for you a presentation on a traffic analysis the analysis for the Westview Affordable Housing Project. Zed Kukula, our newest principal engineer in traffic, will be presenting and answering some of the questions that you may have about the analysis. Although Zed is new to the position, but he is very experienced in traffic. So welcome, Zed. And if you have any questions for me, I will be here to answer any of the questions that you may have. And I will introduce Zed.
All right, thank you, Nabil. Could I go ahead and have my screen shared? Let's see here. It shows that it's disabled right now.
Zed, this is Scott. We'll have Alyssa switch so that you have the ability to share your screen.
Excellent, thank you. All right.
There you go, Zed. And so for our attendees, neighbors, you should see a screen that says Westview Affordable Housing Project Traffic Analysis at this point. And this is the presentation from our traffic engineering team. And back to you, Zed.
All right, thank you. All right, everyone. I hope you guys are having a good night tonight. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to actually hear what we have to present here. My name is Zed Kikula. Like Nabil said, I'm a principal engineer. I've been working with traffic for a long time. One of my roles and responsibility is to make sure that traffic studies that are submitted as part of development projects do meet all of the criteria that is typically used for these analysis. So I want to start off by just briefly saying what are some of the goals for the presentation today. First and foremost is just to give a high level overview of the traffic study, and that will include talking about the findings and the recommendations. I understand there's been some neighborhood meetings, so I know there are some concerns related to the potential for traffic from the development going into the neighborhood. So we definitely want to talk about that. Also want to talk about access on 16th and Fairview. This one's going to be a little more in detail. There's overlap with a Fairview street widening project. So I want to talk about that and a survey that we want to do. And then lastly, just talk about the actual project schedule for the housing project. So as you guys are probably very well aware, there is a proposed development, the Westview project, right in your neighborhood on the north side of the properties you guys own, the single family residence. It's right off of Westminster, and they're proposing to do about 85 units. I understand that there has been some community outreach, either from the developer or even the traffic consultants, and some of the input that has been shared. And I actually talked to some residents as well. I know the cut-through traffic is one of the major concerns. There was also a request to close the Huron Street, as well as installing a traffic signal at 16th and Fairview. So traffic studies are conducted to just see what the impact is from a development on the surrounding area. Traffic studies are able to determine the amount of traffic a project will generate. They also look at the way project traffic is distributed in the neighborhood, as well as how it gets to and from the particular project site. All projects generate traffic, but the question is whether the traffic generated by a particular project is too high or requires some type of traffic improvement to mitigate the traffic impacts, assuming that the impacts are considered significant. Traffic studies are conducted to objectively assess the development project traffic. Traffic study uses standard thresholds or limits that are used to determine if the project traffic is causing a significant impact to the study area. So these thresholds or limits were applied to key intersections in the project area, including, let's see here, was Westminster at Marles, Fairview at Westminster, as well as Fairview and 16th. And to address the concerns with cut-through traffic, Huron and 16th Streets were also evaluated. So what were the traffic study findings? First, the study identified that the project is going to generate about 462 daily trips to and from the project site. This equates to, in terms of the peak hour, because I know the peak hour is a concern, the peak hour in the morning, the project will generate about 31 trips, and then 37 trips during the afternoon rush hour. Just want to point out that these trips from the project site get distributed to the north, to the south, to the west. I mean, they get distributed every which way. So one of the things that the traffic study did is it did in fact determine that some of the intersections are definitely congested. Talking to the residents here, you guys know that's obvious. There's no surprise there. However, the traffic study did identify that the amount of project traffic added to these intersections did not exceed some of the traffic study thresholds, or it didn't further deteriorate the intersections. Therefore, the traffic study found that the intersections had less than significant traffic impacts. I also just want to point out that it identified that the neighborhood traffic intrusion is also considered less than significant. However, I want to talk about this one because I know this one is very important to the residents. So I have a exhibit here. The traffic study actually took counts on Huron, which if you guys could see the cursor, it showed that Huron has currently about 640 trips per day. And then on 16th Street, the existing traffic out there is about 1,800 vehicles per day. This is what's out there right now. It is not in terms of the project impacted by the project. This is existing conditions. So the question I have though is, what is a lot of traffic? Is 640 cars on a residential street a lot? Is 1,180 a lot? Just for comparison purposes, if you consider other streets in the city, Washington, for instance, here in the city has over 5,000 cars per day, and that is a residential street. You also have Santa Clara, and that street, I think, is a winner in terms of ADT. It's approaching 9,000 cars a day. So those are some of the really busy residential streets. So one of the things that we look at is when we do these traffic studies, what is a reasonable threshold? If you were to ask me, I'm not going to say 9,000 cars on the residential street is reasonable. Absolutely not. 5,000, same thing. So the traffic, yes.
Ed, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Robert sort of has an observation I just wanted to share with you. He just texted it in. It says he feels that the traffic study was done during COVID when traffic wasn't very typical. He's sort of like asking whether it was done during this period of time when, people's commute patterns were completely disrupted and changed.
Very good question. So what happens right now with all of these traffic studies, the COVID situation is actually impacting how things are done. Fortunately for us, some of these traffic counts in the area were conducted before the COVID impacted. However, some of them were done after COVID, but we were able to compare the counts that were done before and then after. And with that data, we could actually have an adjustment factor to show what the numbers would be that are represented in the traffic study. So those are the numbers that you see here. Thank you for asking that. Very good question. So in the traffic study, we ended up having an upper threshold of 2,400 cars for a residential street. Now, what is the impact in terms of the actual traffic that would be generated from the development, both on 16th as well as Huron? So the little box here that shows 83, that is how many trips are anticipated to be added on 16th as well as Huron. Yes, it's very clear that the way to get into the development, if you're on Fairview, you could go into 16th off of Fairview, drive through 16th up Huron, then turn right, if you follow the arrows, right into the project development. But what the study was identifying is that these values, even if you were to add the 83 vehicles per day to the existing volume, it is still below the threshold identified as reasonable. So,
Zed, if we could just pause for 1 second here.
sure.
I just wanted to see whether Jay, do you have a question that you would like to ask at this point? I know your microphone's on mute right now, but I was under the impression, Jay, that you may have a question.
Is it still on mute?
No, you're unmuted, Jay. Why don't you go ahead? Do you have a question for Zed?
Yes, I do.
That's right.
So I was reading about the low-income apartment complex where you have 83 trips. And I really think that estimate is low, considering that some of those apartments are going to be 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms. I don't see where it's just going to be 83 trips. I mean, if you have at least 2 adults living in those apartments and it's going to be 84 apartments, that number cannot be accurate.
So what happens is the actual project itself will be generating far more than 83 trips. It's going to generate about 462 trips. But what
So what's
happens
that? So what was that 83 number up there for?
the 83 is representing the number of trips that would be going on 16th and Huron, because if you can imagine when someone exits the project site, if they want to go north, they're going to go in a particular direction towards the freeway. They're not going to be necessarily approaching it this direction. So this is just the traffic.
There's a lot of people that go down Fairview to the 405. And they will be coming through Huron and 16th Street.
In terms of the project traffic, the driveway is east. I don't know if you can see the cursor. You have the median right here.
Yes, Zed, we can see the cursor. We can see
So
your
if
cursor.
someone
It's
exits-
white. It's white.
Yes, it's white. They cannot turn left to go down to Huron. They would have to turn right. It's a right in, right out only driveway.
So there's no entrance, entrance or exit at all on Huron?
That is correct. The
Okay.
only entrance is going to be located on Westminster, which will help
Okay.
to address any of this cut through traffic.
Okay, all right. I wasn't clear on that.
Oh, no, thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, Jay. We're going to mute your microphone for a minute here.
That's
But
fine.
if you have another question, we can call on you. Okay, Zed, back to you, Zed.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So even though the traffic study identified that there weren't significant impacts on some of the intersections in the neighborhood street, there are still some recommendations that are identified in the traffic study. One of them is to contribute money to build a median on Fairview and 16th. This is one that we'll be talking about a little bit later on too. This particular improvement would restrict left turns in and out of that intersection. And again, we'll talk about that one a little bit more. And then another recommendation is to extend the eastbound left turn pocket on Westminster at Fairview. And then the installation of a new traffic signal on Westminster at Marless. This exhibit here highlights the particular recommendation. So over on this side, this is where Marless is at. That would be a brand new traffic signal. And we have a little zoomed in arrow. So here's Huron, if you can see the cursor. And then the intent would be to lengthen the left turn pocket so that more cars could get in to turn left going eastbound approaching Fairview. And then on the bottom here, where the cursor's at, the other recommendation would be to do a median island right in the intersection. And again, I'll talk about that.
Zed, I'm sorry. Hi, this is Scott again. I really apologize for interrupting you. If you could go back to that, the aerial, just to be really clear with everybody that the large red box is a enlargement essentially of that small red box. Is that right?
That is correct. Thank you.
Okay. So just for those who aren't as familiar as some of us in looking at these aerial maps and all, that very large square, the red square at the top on the left, is a magnification of the smaller box in the center of Westminster. Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Scott.
Are there, before we move on, let's just ask again if there are any questions about these traffic study recommendations or this aerial photograph from any of the participants. Okay, great. Zed, back to you. We can always open it up for more questions as we continue. Thank you very much. And again, I apologize for the interruption.
Oh, no worries. This is good. This is good. So one of the things we want to talk about too is that one of the recommendations, the one on Fairview and 16, it's interrelated to the Fairview widening. As you may know that the city's been working on widening Fairview for a while now. And the intent is to widen Fairview to have 3 lanes in each direction with a center running raised median. basically from Civic Center all the way up to at least Etna, which is north of Westminster. The first phase of this project is between 9th Street and 16th. This is tied into the Fairview Bridge widening. And this particular project is already funded. Design will be taking place next year, and construction should start in the year 2022. Once construction starts, the project will take about 2 years to complete construction. The second and subsequent phase for the Fairview widening is on Fairview as well, between 16th Street to Etna. So the cutoff between the two phases is right on 16th, right by your neighborhood. Unfortunately, this project, the second phase at the present time is unfunded. And because it's unfunded, we do not have a schedule, and we're not sure at this point when that project will be done. So this is definitely a project that will take place in the future. But as it develops, we will definitely inform the community of the development of this project. This is just a little aerial view here that shows the project limits for the two phases of the Fairview widening. The area here in yellow is the first phase, which goes over the Santa Ana River Bridge. And again, the limit on the south side here is 9th Street. Here's 16th. And where the cursor is at, this is where your neighborhood is currently at. And then the red section here is the future undetermined, or at least unscheduled project phase.
So Zed, this is Scott again, just to get our orientation, north is on the very, very far right. Is that correct? Okay.
Correct. It's over where the cursor is circling right now. And then south is on this side, on the left side of the screen. So the reason I want to talk about the Fairview widening is we're aware of the concern with the cut-through traffic. We understand the traffic study says there is no impact. However, we wanted to approach the neighborhood to ask for your input on an option. So the current project, for the Fairview Bridge widening, right at the intersection of Fairview and 16, it's going to maintain the left turn access. It's going to have a left turn pocket. Whatever you see there right now is proposed to remain under the current configuration of that project. However, we understand that there are concerns from the residents about the potential for cut-through traffic from the development project. So we wanted to ask you for your input because the city may be able to actually extend the median across the intersection as part of that project that's going to take place, start construction in about 2 years. And what would happen if we do that? So if you could see the little arrow where the cursor is at, if we build the median across the intersection, the traffic that goes to the development, the proposed development, would not be able to turn left and go through 16 and then up here on and back into the development. There would be, yes.
Zed, I'm sorry. Chris Jacobson has a question. He had his hand raised just for a couple minutes here, so I just didn't want too much time to go by. Chris, we've unmuted your mic if you want to go ahead.
Sure. Zed, if we basically extend or widen Fairview and we terminate it at 17th Street, isn't that just going to move the bottleneck, which is currently at Civic Center Drive, and move it to Fairview and 17th Street?
Yes, that is correct. During this particular phase, there will be a little bit more of a bottleneck there, but that's a bottleneck that it's existing right now. When the second phase comes through in the future, that will
I understand that, but if we add that median at 16th Street and then add a bottleneck at Fairview and 17th Street, how are we, if we're traveling north on Fairview and need to get in our neighborhood, how are we ever going to be able to get there?
There is a left turn pocket that could be used to get into that left turn arrow. So what would happen is the traffic would continue north on Fairview. And then we're aware that there is no U-turn Fairview at Westminster. So everyone will be forced to turn left on Westminster, go west towards Marless, then crank a U-turn at Marless, and then the project development traffic would go into their neighborhood. But the reason we wanted to bring this up to your attention, which you guys probably already figured out, if the traffic going to the development can't turn left, neither can residents on Huron, 16, or Glen Harbor. So we want to make sure that we make you guys aware of that. And that's why we would want to have your feedback, whether or not this is something that would be in the community's best interest for us to pursue or not pursue.
I think it would probably be in our best interest if there was a way to get out of the neighborhood and go north on Fairview. My concern is being able to get out of Huron and into the left turn pocket to go north on Fairview at 17. As it is now, pre-COVID, that traffic backs all the way up to the Keep Clear paint stripes and sometimes beyond it. And I don't know how safely you can get over there.
Yeah,
Were you able to figure that out?
Yeah, you know what? That's one of the challenges, unfortunately, with a lot of these larger intersections. When you have, especially with you guys right now, you have Westminster and Fairview, both major arterials, and the situation you guys experience is unfortunately very common during rush hour in a lot of locations that are have these side streets or even like driveways that are close to the intersections. So it is something that unfortunately doesn't have a solution necessarily. But again, we just want to make sure that you guys are aware of what option the city could propose and work with you as part of this Fairview widening. We definitely want your input. That will give us direction whether to do it or not to do it. This is something the city has full control over in terms of city staff. So again, it's important to share this with you.
Has the city looked at the possibility of restricting right turns off of Westminster going south on Huron?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Has the city looked at the possibility of restricting right turns in the morning off of Westminster heading east to go south on Huron?
No, we have not. We have not.
I mean,
and I know that's not part of the development project because that movement is not one that is expected to be necessarily impacted at all, if any, by the
I understand, but the project is going to, traffic is already impacted. It's going to get worse. This project converting it from retail parking to residential parking is going to make it even more worse. And so that would be a way maybe to keep down some of the traffic and some of the sound from the cut through traffic. One thing the traffic study hasn't dealt with at all is the noise. And I've noticed that
on that one, we could work with you directly on that one. We do have some areas in the city that we do have term restrictions. So we could work with you on that. So how about if you and I touch base after the meeting?
Sure.
And then we could talk about that just to see how we could do that.
So Zed, it sounds like that discussion is sort of independent of the development project itself.
Well, it's not related to the development, except that the development makes overall traffic worse. And so it's just a way to maybe.
All right. Thank you, Chris. We're going to move on to, we have another question, Zed.
Yes.
From Duan Nguyen. Go ahead. Your microphone is unmuted. Please go ahead. Tuan Nguyen and Hai Lei, you had your hand raised with a question, and so your mic is unmuted if you'd like to go ahead and ask Zed Kakula, the traffic engineer, your question. Hi, Duan Nguyen. Your hand was raised, and so this is your opportunity to ask your question regarding traffic to the traffic engineer. Okay, I see that you've muted your microphone. If you have a question as we continue, we can always come back to you. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so let me go on to the next slide here. This is still related to the Fairview project for the future phase. And again, right now it's unfunded and we don't have a schedule for it, but ultimately there will be a median running across 16th all the way to Westminster, 3 lanes in each direction. And when this is done out in the future, there will be an opportunity to do U-turns from Fairview, northbound Fairview to southbound Fairview to get into the neighborhood. So we just wanted to point that out so that you guys are aware of what's being proposed or at least looked at well into the future. So in terms of the median on Fairview at 16th, we want to ask you guys, what's going on? Do you guys want us to pursue that or not? So what we're going to do is send you guys, the neighborhood, a survey. Very simple. Do you want it or do you not? Okay. So we're going to send the survey out to all the residents on November 17th, which is next Tuesday. And we're going to ask that they be at least returned with a postmark due by December 1st. And what we're going to do is once we receive them, we are going to let you guys know what you, the community, would want us to do for this particular location. So we'll send those responses on December 10th. The one thing I do want to point out, though, is when we send these out and we receive them, if you don't send it back, that means you're not participating. And just because you do not send it back, that doesn't mean you don't want it done. We're only going to account for the ones that are submitted. So if you submit it and you say yes, we know you want it. If you submit it and you say no, we know you want it. So it's important that if you want to provide us your feedback on this particular intersection, please send us the survey. And if you want to let the residents know, your neighbors know about this, that would be absolutely fabulous. So like I said, we're going to send this out November 17th. So be on the lookout for it. And it will be trilingual, English, Spanish, as well as Vietnamese.
Zed, this is Scott. And with regard to Duan Nguyen, I'd like to ask Tu if she could perhaps make an announcement in Vietnamese to see whether, in fact, some interpreting may be beneficial.
Yes. Dạ, thưa quý vị người Việt, là nếu quý vị muốn hỏi, có câu hỏi gì thì quý vị vui lòng hỏi, hoặc nếu quý vị cần thông dịch thì là Thu, tôi sẽ thông dịch cho quý vị. Khi quý vị hỏi thì quý vị cần phải gọi là unmute, tức là mình bấm ở cái phía bên trái, ở phía dưới cùng của cái màn ảnh của mình á. Bên trái phía dưới cùng nó có cái chữ là mute. Và cái hình là microphone á, là trên cái hình của quý vị nó có cái hình màu đỏ, tức là nó đã đóng lại, tức là khi mình nói thì người khác không nghe được. Thì quý vị phải dùng cái con chuột là cái mouse á, quý vị bỏ vô để vào cái chỗ đó, quý vị nhấn một cái mà nó trên cái màn ảnh quý vị thấy rằng là nó không còn đỏ nữa đó, thì quý vị nói chúng tôi sẽ nghe ạ.
Tu, I see that Duan Nguyen has unmuted their mic, but we don't have an indication that they have a question at this time, it appears.
Yeah, let me ask if they say something so we can hear or not. Oh, he put back. Dạ, thưa ông bà Đoàn Nguyễn đó, có thể giúp chúng tôi là bây giờ ông bà làm thử bỏ cái chữ mute, tức là cái màu đỏ của cái microphone, nói thử coi là tụi tôi có nghe không ạ? Tại vì tụi tôi sợ là về kỹ thuật đó. Dạ, đúng rồi. Thì bây giờ ông bà nói lên cái gì đó thử coi là tụi tôi có nghe được không ạ? Hello? Dạ, tụi tôi không có nghe gì hết. Tức là quý vị đã bỏ cái chữ mute rồi mà tụi tôi cũng không nghe được. We still don't hear anything, Scott. Even
okay.
they unmuted. I think they have a problem.
Can you, Tu, could you perhaps remind them that they can type their question into the chat box,
Yes.
and we can read their question.
Dạ, dạ thưa quý vị, tức là bây giờ thì không có thấy nghe ai nói hết, nhưng mà quý vị nếu mà gặp trục trặc về cái kỹ thuật đó mà nói chúng tôi không nghe thì quý vị có thể dùng cái con chuột là cái mouse á, quý vị bấm vô cái chữ chat á, chat thì tôi đánh vần tiếng Việt đó là CHAT đó, chữ chat đó, quý vị bấm vô trong đó rồi quý vị đánh máy vô, đánh tiếng Việt thì tôi dịch ra cho tiếng Mỹ, rồi tôi hỏi, rồi khi họ nói thì tôi sẽ thông dịch cho quý vị ạ. Dạ, đúng rồi, tôi cũng nghĩ là quý vị bị cái kỹ thuật gì đó.
So we've received we've received a on indicating a problem with their phone. So they are hearing us, but they're having a problem with their microphone, and it sounds like you've let them know that if they have a question, they can type their question in on the chat. Correct? Okay, very good. Okay, so
ông bà Đoàn Nguyễn, là chúng tôi cảm ơn ông bà đã đánh trong cái chat thì mọi người có thấy rồi. Nếu quý vị có câu hỏi gì thì quý vị có thể hỏi họ trong cái chat này ạ.
Okay, so we do have the question now. This is Scott again, and Zed. We do have the question now from Tuan Nguyen. And the question is, as the left turn and U-turn on Fairview going north. Yeah, I'm reading exactly what's in there. It says, as the left turn and U-turn on Fairview going north.
I don't quite follow.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's enough information. Two, perhaps could you ask Duan Nguyen to provide a little bit more information, perhaps, so that, and we can come back to them if necessary, but we don't quite have enough information to answer their question because we're not.
Dạ thưa quý vị, trên này tên là Đoàn Nguyễn ạ. Tôi nói đại thêm dấu là Đoàn Nguyễn. Thì Đoàn Nguyễn là vui lòng cho họ thêm cái chi tiết về cái câu hỏi của quý vị.
Okay. Okay. So I've got the rest. This is Scott again. I've got the rest of this, Zed.
Okay.
So I'm gonna read what's in the chat box and thank everyone for their patience as we are as inclusive as possible kind of on this meeting. Okay, so this is an opinion that they have. They're saying it's not a question, it's an opinion. As the left turn and U-turn on Fairview going north is a penalty for people in the neighborhood. As the left turn and U-turn on Fairview going north is a penalty for the people in the neighborhood. This is not a question, but an opinion. Okay.
Yeah, I think, Scott, I think he's, expressing that he is not in favor of that change.
That's what it sounds like, Zed.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you very much for that item. And Zed, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, on this slide here, this is just the area that we're going to be sending out the survey forms, which is basically here on 16th and Glen Arbor. Now moving just back to some of the information on the housing project. The item will be going on December 14th to the Planning Commission, followed by the City Council on January 19th of 2021. When it does go to these commissions or the council, the public hearing notices will be mailed, so you would be notified. And then if you have any specific written comments on the particular project, you could send them to the email that's shown here on the screen, comments@santa-ana.org. And that will be 10 days prior to the meeting. And lastly, if the project is approved, construction is estimated to start in April of 2022 and last about 16 months. So if you want any additional information on the project or look at the actual traffic impact analysis, the link is on this website on the very top. And then we also have Selena Keller's contact information as well as mine. So if you have questions after the meeting, please feel free to give me a call. I'll be happy to talk to you. So I think that's it. So if you have any other questions, I'll be happy to address them. Any other questions? All right, I don't hear any questions. Chris, just remember, you and I'll touch base on the that signage afterwards.
Hi, Zed, it's Margarita, and we had Don Nguyen and Hai share or clarify that they don't want a left turn or no U-turn on Fairview going north, that it's a penalty for the people in the neighborhood. We're just reading off the chat.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. If there aren't any other observations or comments, we want to encourage residents to continue to participate in the review process associated with the Westview housing project, including the Planning Commission, City Council, etc. As part of this meeting, you may already have had the email addresses for Zed Kakula, the principal civil engineer for traffic in the city, as well as Selena Kelleher, our associate city planner associated with the project. And so they are available to you after tonight at any point if you have questions and need additional information. To our panelists, thank you all for participating. Mr. Saba, any closing remarks that you'd like to share?
Sure. Thank you, everyone, for attending. If you have any questions, concerns, please do not hesitate to reach out to the Public Works Department. We are more than happy to address your concerns and questions. And I encourage everyone here to download My Santa Ana app to report any issues that you may have in your neighborhood, in your community. The response to the My Santa Ana app is outstanding. We take care of these issues as they are reported almost immediately. So please download the app and keep in touch. And thank you and have a good night.
Scott and everyone, thank you. This is Selena Kelleher in the Planning Division. I just wanted to say hello and thanks for joining the call. Also, just to follow up on Zed's presentation, I sent a link out and it was the link on the PowerPoint. You can access a copy of the site plan, elevations, and some information about the project. Things like that is where Jay can verify that the driveway is indeed on Westminster. And also keep up to date on any public hearing dates and times. And the ones that were shown are the anticipated meeting dates. And just want to add a caveat that the January City Council meeting, there is potential it would be on January 5th. However, that meeting is typically in years past, for several years, has been canceled due to the holidays. So it's again likely the two dates that we provided. So that's December 14th. And January 19th for City Council. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to call or email me in the interim.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you very much, Selena. So if there aren't any other observations, comments, or announcements, we'll ask our colleague Alyssa Ventura to conclude the webinar. Thank you and good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you, everyone. Good night.
Thanks. Good night.
Good night. So I can exit, right?
Yes, that's it. Thank you too.
You're welcome, Margarita.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Have a